Hi and welcome to week 2 of Preptober. It's Tuesday, October the 8th, but let's start on what happened on Monday. Library Hall, I went to return books and I came back with Britney Spears' The Woman in Me and an impulse purchase Peace Lily. I went grocery shopping and this was on sale for only €2. Since this was published only last year, I was certain that everyone was reading it and I would not be able to get it from the library, but there it was on the shelf, so I obviously had to get it. This is also a bit of a research for a novel project. Yesterday evening I read 3 chapters of Project Prehistory, which means that I only have 6 chapters left, and my goal today is to read those remaining 6 chapters. It's a little over 9 AM, so I hope to be done by 4 PM. After that, I still have some minor things I need to fix in the manuscript. There's a thing that I need to add in chapter 3. I wasn't sure if I mentioned it in chapter 5 or chapter 7, so I did not add it while I was reading the manuscript. I have mentioned it in chapter 7, but I realized that it's such an important detail that I really should mention it already in chapter 3. It raises the stakes and it also explains why the main character must reach his goal, explains the repercussions of what happens if he doesn't reach his goal. There's also something in chapter 6 that I need to change, which I can't remember right now what it is, but it's probably something minor. In chapter 17, I realized after I had read the chapter that there is something that can be deleted. When I edited the chapter, I condensed a lot of information and I deleted a part of a scene, and there are still remnants of that scene remaining that I realized that are unnecessary and I can just delete them. And the same thing with chapter 19. I deleted a part of a scene and there is still one sentence that has information that is now unnecessary and I can just delete it. But those are really minor changes, so I hope that I will be able to do them this evening, and the rest of the week I can concentrate on prepping for the new novel that I'm writing in November, which is a Pride and Prejudice retelling. Tomorrow my plan is to continue writing out the outline of Pride and Prejudice, which will then form the basis of the outline of my retelling. I also have handwritten notes, mostly snippets from dialogue, that I need to type into a Word document so that I can later use them in the first draft. And then I can work on the outline of my retelling. I already have a basic idea of what's going to happen in the book. Like, I have contexts where the scenes take place. Last weekend I realized that I had mostly concentrated on things that happen in, let's call them, Pemberley and Huntsworth. But I hadn't really thought about what happens in Netherfield. So I took some time to think about it and I came up with a potential equivalent for Netherfield in my retelling. I'm not 100% sure if I like the idea, but I'm going to go with it for now. Working out the outline shouldn't take too long because it is based on an already existing novel, so it should be relatively easy. I hope that on Saturday I can already start sketching out scenes. But before we go that far, I need to continue with Project Prehistory and read the remaining 6 chapters. Well, today was a struggle. I have no idea why, but I had huge difficulties concentrating. So it's 4:30 p.m. So I did not get done by 4 p.m. But I have finally read the final 6 chapters. I also added a 5th thing that I need to change. I realized that there is one action that the main character does in 2 different chapters, so I need to change that, but I will do those changes in the evening. There are also some minor things I want to check. I want the word to talk have a gender used, so I need to check that the characters talk to a man and talk with a woman. I want to check that the word festival is always capitalized, and I want to check the usage of the word wind for theological reasons, let's put it that way. Wind is one of the divine forces that the people in my prehistoric world believe in. It's Tuesday evening and I just finished the fourth draft of Project Prehistory. It took me about half an hour to make the bigger edits and another half an hour to make the smaller changes, and after that I've just cleaned up the manuscript. The current word count is 138,833 and the starting word count was 158,431. So I deleted almost 20,000 words, which is more than I ever could have hoped for. I'm really happy with how the manuscript is right now, so it's time to let it rest. Unless if I come up with something really urgent that needs to be changed. But otherwise, I'm gonna let it rest until early next year when I start working on the fifth draft, which, fingers crossed, will be the last draft, and after that I can start querying. I'll come back tomorrow with the Pride and Prejudice retelling and continue working on that. It's 9 a.m. on Wednesday morning and I'm continuing writing out the outline of Pride and Prejudice. I have 16 chapters or around 80 pages left, so hopefully I'm done by noon. It's 12:30 and I just finished writing down the outline for Pride and Prejudice, so it took me a little bit longer than I expected, but I'm done now. I found a new favorite passage in Pride and Prejudice, which is in chapter 55, where Bingley finally comes to propose to Jane. I love the way Jane Austen teases the reader, because first Bingley comes, nothing happens. The second day Bingley comes again and nothing happens except in the evening where an engagement was formed. But not between Bingley and Jane, no, for he's coming next morning to shoot with Mr. Bennet. The next day Bingley comes again, and in the evening when Elizabeth returns to the drawing room, she finds Jane and Bingley standing together as if engaged in earnest conversation. At this point they are really engaged, but I love the way Jane Austen teases the reader and plays with the word engagement here. Anyway, I'm gonna take a little break and then come back to this and start sketching out my own ideas for the retelling. My break took a bit longer than I expected. It's now 3 p.m. but I'll work for an hour until 4 p.m. and try to sketch out as many ideas as I can think of. I got quite a lot done in just a little over an hour. I got to the end of volume 1 of Pride and Prejudice, which is approximately 1/3. So I still have 2/3 left. But this was quite a productive hour. So I obviously can't show you this in detail, but I've written quite a lot in the ideas column. And if you can see, I've highlighted some things in yellow. Those are the major questions that I still have. It's been rainy and cloudy and miserable for the past couple of days, and the indoor temperature just dropped to 21 degrees of Celsius, which is not that low, but considering that it used to be 25 degrees indoors just a couple of weeks ago, I think it's time to cozy up. Yesterday, on Wednesday evening, I typed my handwritten notes into a Word document. I have exactly 1,234 words, which is a really nice number, but I'm excited to see it go up. Today is Thursday, October the 10th, and I'm going to continue sketching out my ideas for the outline. It's Saturday morning. Yesterday on Friday I finished sketching out my ideas for the outline. Today I'm moving on to working on individual scenes. So I'm cutting up pieces of paper which I will use to write down my ideas for the scenes, so I can count how many scenes I have and also organize them in the order that they will happen. I mostly follow the order of events from Pride and Prejudice because I think the structure of Pride and Prejudice is absolutely perfect and I cannot make it better. So it doesn't make sense for me to start messing with the outline and the order of events too much. But I will be condensing some of the scenes, combining them together, so my retelling will most likely be a lot shorter than Pride and Prejudice. And I will also be changing the events slightly. For example, I will be introducing the character of Collins a lot earlier, which reminds me I should really start thinking about how I'm going to name my characters. I only have a nickname for one of the characters and no actual names. But that can wait, and today I will be focusing on the scenes. It took me the whole day, but here's my stack of scene cards. There's 52 of them, which means that if I write 1000 words for each scene, the novel would be 52,000 words, which would be a very good word count. Some of the scene ideas are still quite rough. I need to work on them a lot more, and I have a few questions that I still need to figure out. But at least I have the basics for each scene. The next step is to start fleshing out these scenes more. I find it easier to brainstorm using pen and paper, but now that I have a rough idea for each of the scenes, I'm going to switch to working on computer. But that's something that I will do next week. Week 2 of Preptober was quite productive again. I finished the 4th draft of Project Prehistory and I made the outline for the Pride and Prejudice retelling. Let me know how your Preptober is going, and I'll see you next week for week 3 of Preptober.